The new Power BI button slicer gives you a lot of interesting formatting options that are not available in the older version of slicers. Hello everyone, Shahab is back with the second part of new Power BI slicer tutorial. I recommend you first watch the first part of this video and then continue this one because they are complementary. If you're watching my videos for the first time, please subscribe to the channel to get a notification for the new upcoming videos. Stay tuned. In the last video we created this slicer, and today we are going to make another slicer for the subcategories with another design. First, I select another new slicer visual, and for the data field I choose product subcategory name. What I'm going to do today is to make this slicer a little bit similar to what you can see on websites, like this. Before starting, I just select all the categories to see all the related subcategories here below. I want to get rid of the titles for both of these slicers. So, from the Format pane and General tab, I turn off the title toggle for both. The next step is, when this product subcategory slicer is selected, I change the slicer shape to rounded rectangle and corners to 20 pixels. Don't worry, if it's still not looking good, we can fix it later. Next, I open the call out value section and check the state that should be on default. And then change the font to Sego UI semi-bold and the size a little bit smaller. I'm just changing the alignment to center. If here you can see the text is not exactly in the middle of the buttons, we need to apply some changes. To fix, we need to open the button section and from the padding, when it's on the default state, play with it to have the text in the middle. You can see here, because the number of items is more than the slicer space, we have a scroll bar here, and we can scroll up or down to see all the items. If we go to the layout section and then overflow, we can change the style from continuous scroll to paginated. And you can see then, by pressing on this arrow, you can see the next items. But here, we don't need it, and we choose the continuous scroll again. Let's change the colors a little bit. So I'll go to buttons, and when it's in the default state, I change the fill color to light gray. If you feel the color is too dark, you can increase the transparency to make it a little bit lighter. Then I change the state to selected, and then change the fill color to something like this blue. And next, change the transparency to make it lighter. When it's still in the selected state, I'll go to the border section to change the border color from this initial black to this blue to match with its fill color. Next, we need to change the text color on the buttons. So, we are going to the call out values, and when we are on the default state, I change the color to light gray. and then change the state to selected, and I'll pick the same blue color. Also, you can see a white background behind these button slicers, and because I don't want to see them, I'll go to the General Format tab and turn off the toggle for the background. I'll do the same for Categories slicer and will remove its background. As you can see, when I choose one of these categories, it affects the product category slicer. But it's not what I like to see. So I select the subcategory slicer, and from Format menu on top, I choose Edit Interaction and then press on this None icon above the product category slicer and then turn off the Edit Interactions. Now you can see choosing any of these subcategories doesn't affect any of the categories. The next thing I want to apply to the slicers is using single select for the product category. And so, from the slicer settings, I choose single select and then force selection, because I want to see at least one option is always active as the selected state. For the subcategory slicer, I want to have the ability to select multiple buttons. So I turn off the single select option if active. Now, what I want to do is to insert a check mark on the buttons before their text values. There are a variety of methods available to find and download a checkmark icon. But the easiest way is to download it using PowerPoint. So in PowerPoint, from the Insert menu, I select Icons and search for checkmark. And there it is. Choose it and press on Insert. You can see the checkmark color is black, but we need to use the same blue color that we used in Power BI. So, go back to the Power BI, select the slicer, from the callout values, when the state is unselected, you can see this font color here. Press on this drop down icon, and then more colors. Then copy this hex code and go back to PowerPoint. When the checkmark is selected, on Graphic Format menu, and then from Graphic Field, paste the color code here to select the exact same color. Then right-click on this icon and save it as a picture. And from the File Type section, choose the PNG format because we don't want any background color. The same as what we did in part 1 of the new button slicer video, we need to use a URL. So open imgbb.com and upload the image to get the URL code and use it in Power BI. I select the HTML code and copy it. Then, in Power BI, the same as part 1, create a measure and write the name of the measure, like checkmark. And then put an equal sign. Then paste the copied link inside double quotations. Just remember to delete the extra part of this URL, which was described in the previous video. The point that you should know is when you're creating this measure, you don't need to change the data category to image URL and leave it as it is. Now it's the time to use this checkmark on the slicer. So, from the slicer formatting section and then images, we need to choose the created measure in this field area. As you know, we want to use this image in the selected state. It means we don't want to see the check mark when the button is not selected. But the issue is, when I select any other state than default, you can see image field is grayed out, and we cannot add the images. So we should first go to the default state and add the created image in the image field. Then here on the transparency, we need to increase it to 100% when we are on the default state. This makes the checkmark invisible to us in the default state. Then choose the selected state, and in this state, change the transparency to 0%. You can see the checkmark is located in the middle of the slicer. Indeed, we want to show it on the left side of the text. So here, become sure the Set as Background toggle is off, and now we can see the position option here, but it's grayed out. So go back to the default state and just change the transparency to 0% for a minute to see what we are doing. And then turn the Set as Background toggle off. And now you can change the position to left. Then let's make the checkmark size a little bit smaller. So I change the image area size to somewhere around 15%. By increasing the space between image and call out, you can move the text to right to make more space between text and image. But here I let it remain as 0 pixel. Now when everything is done, I change the default state transparency to 100% and go back to the selected state and check everything there. And the transparency, which should be 0%. Just notice, because we use this checkmark on the left, the text is moved a little bit to the right, even in the default state in which we cannot see the checkmark because of the 100% transparency. The text is not exactly centrally aligned. What we need to do is, in the default state, just turn on the Set as Background option. If you can see the size of this checkmark is still bigger than what you want, you need to go to the default state and from the image fit, change it to normal. This is exactly what we are looking for, a very nice looking button slicer which is very similar to what we can see on websites. I'm just changing the size and position of these different visuals to have a better and eye-catching dashboard. Hope you enjoyed this video and please like and share it with your network. You can also follow me on LinkedIn and subscribe to the channel to get the notification for the new upcoming videos. Have a good one, all Power BI lovers.